What's up, everybody? Welcome into Around the Felt. We got a special mock draft edition tonight. I just smacked my mic. Sorry about that. If anyone's ears just got destroyed there. But yeah, we got a special mock draft tonight. I got Colin, my co-host, and then Drock, commissioner, here today. So we're gonna do it. It'll be a little more fast-paced, mock draft 1.0, and we're doing the bigger one on Sunday night. So that'll be out Monday morning for you guys. But that'll be the 8-man one. So this will just be kind of shooting the shit, not a lot going on right now in the NFL outside of the draft. So why not give you more content draft related? How
Absolutely,
we doing,
Reagan.
fellas?
Doing great, my friends. I love the NFL draft. I love the drama that comes with it. It's the biggest reality TV show in the sporting world. It should be a fun time. So Reagan and I are going to alternate picks. I have the first pick, so I have the odds. He has the evens. And also, guys, if you haven't done so yet, head on over to aroundthefeltsports.com and check out Big Tong's Mock 1.0. Put a lot of time into that. It was a lot of fun doing it, though. I might have another one out next week for you guys, but we also have, as Reagan mentioned, the 8-man mock draft coming Monday. We have a couple guests coming on, some new faces, and each man will get 4 teams, and we're going to do that draft. So mock draft season is in full effect. This should be a fun one tonight.
Very fun.
Very fun. All right, Reagan, should we kick it off, huh? Are the Chicago Bears on the clock?
Yeah. Just for some, just so everybody knows, Colin's gonna do the odds. I'm gonna do the evens, and then we'll end up somewhere at pick 32 finished. So
Yeah, that's how many picks are in the first round, Reagan. Thanks for letting
well,
everyone know.
well, now that you say that, there are years where teams get stripped
Hey,
picks. So we've had years
one
like
year. Yeah,
last year where there was 31. So I just want to let people know.
that's good. Yeah, Miami did
But
not get stripped of their first round draft pick for tampering with Tom Brady this time around. So there are 32 picks, and I'll start us off with the Chicago Bears. Not going to waste too much time here. Caleb Williams is the pick. He's the best quarterback in the class. The way that he's able to make throws outside the pocket with different arm angles and extend plays is second to none. He has all the physical traits you could want in a quarterback. Some people consider him the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. Now there are some questions. I mean, it's honestly just nitpicking. Like, is he a team guy? Is he gonna be coachable in the NFL? But I think that's ridiculous. He's stepping into the best supporting cast a number 1 overall quarterback has ever had in the NFL.
yeah, I mean, that's expected. You gave me a more difficult decision because if you decided to go one of the other quarterbacks, I'd have Caleb Williams falling in my lap. You didn't. I'm gonna go with Drake May here.
Woo!
I just feel like he's has the higher upside. He doesn't have the higher upside, but I like his tools more as a quarterback. I think he's got the better arm. I think his ceiling. No, you know what? I'm gonna stick with that. I think he does have a higher ceiling because at the end of the day, it's all nitpicking. Yes, I know Daniels played in a better conference. Obviously, SEC football is a lot better than ACC football, especially now that Clemson's not what they are. But you know what, man? I'm going to go with him. He was there was a debate prior to last year that he may have gone number 1 overall, and obviously Caleb Williams is going 1. I'm not going to fight that, but I'm going to go Drake May here. I think with the weapons Washington has in McLaurin and Dotson, I really do like that, and I think kind of the running back setup there. Like I think they want to be a run first team, so I just think he fits the system better. But you know what? It is a new coaching staff coming into Washington and ownership. This is their first draft. So, or I'm sorry, like this is their first draft without Ron Rivera. So I think this is a key one. So no matter what here, you got to be right because this can really set your franchise back, which has already been set back a ton. So it'll be interesting to see what they do here, but I'm going Drake May.
I like it, Reagan. Dave, you can just click the draft button and it will go. Just a heads up, brother. There you go. Okay, Reagan. So I actually prefer Drake May over Jaden Daniels as well. I was a Jaden Daniels guy, but I don't know, this dude that I respect a lot, Dan Snyder on Twitter, he breaks down film all the time with the quarterbacks, particularly with the Giants in the hunt for a quarterback. And he just absolutely loves Drake May's ability to drive the ball to the middle of the field. He makes a ton of NFL caliber throws, like tight windows. He gets to a second read a lot. He shows a lot of flashes in that regard. Now, he was a little inconsistent. The team wasn't as good in 2023 for North Carolina, so his stats did dip a bit. A lot of people think May might need a year to wait, but his tools are undeniable, and he has a very high ceiling. So I think Drake May is a good pick, Reagan. But I will say this. Schefter did say on a Commanders pod last week that they can start getting their Jaden Daniels jerseys ready. And after he said that, odds for Jaden Daniels to go number 2 went from -160 to -220. So I don't know. I think they're leaning Daniels due to Cliff Kingsbury preferring a mobile quarterback. But I mean, now for me at number 3 with the New England Patriots, I'm going to take Jaden Daniels. I mean, he won the Heisman Trophy last year. Phenomenal season his 5th year in college. Transferred from Arizona State. He played 2 years at LSU. Was an absolute stud. Had 50 total touchdowns. Had over 1,000 rushing yards. Over 5,000 total yards. It was clear to see why he won the Heisman Trophy. He also has a phenomenal deep ball that I think will translate to the league as well, and obviously that rushing ability will, but he needs to learn to protect himself a bit more. He was a little spotty when he was under pressure, but he does have the ability to escape the pocket. So I think if you're the Patriots, you're pretty excited if you get Jaden Daniels in the spot.
Yeah, it's interesting you did that because I think I would have taken a different approach there, but I'll let Marvin Harrison fall into my lop at 4. I really do think the
Fall
Patriots
in
should
your
take
lop.
him.
Fall in your
Fall in my
lop.
lop, my lop. But yeah, I'm going to take Marvin Harrison here. That's a shoe in for me. I really think the Patriots should take him, but that's not my pick. So I'll take him with the Cardinals. I think he'll pair very nicely with Kyler Murray. It'll get him the best receiver he's had since DeAndre Hopkins, and we saw what he was able to do there. He was an MVP candidate when he had DeAndre Hopkins. Plus Trey McBride. I think those two will complement each other nicely. So I'm excited to see what this Cardinals offense can become with the most dynamic receiver in the draft. I mean, ton of production at Ohio State. I'd say wide receiver U. You can debate some other colleges, but Ohio State in recent years has just been producing talent out the ass. So I'm excited for this one, as should
Good pick,
Cardinals fans
Reagan.
be.
Yeah.
Jake Batoff, your Cardinals got Marvin Harrison.
I mean, that's the obvious pick here. I think it's pretty clear that that is who Arizona wants, and that's why they have such a hefty price tag, presumably for a team to move up. It's 3 first-round picks for a team not in the top 10. They're mostly speaking to Minnesota with that one. Now, Reagan, are we doing trades or no? Because if it's
I
just
mean,
tough to do trade, like it's tough to do trades. We could just do this exercise as no trades, but at the same time, like
they're gonna happen.
this
I
is
say we
this
do
is
no
prime.
trades just
This is
because we'll have
yeah,
trades in the one coming out on Sunday, and it's also hard to do trades when it's just two of us, where
yeah.
it's like you're not really. You would just be like negotiating with, I guess, me or yourself technically. So
Well, yeah,
I
you
think
just got
it's
to
better
propose
for.
a trade to
I
make the
think
draft
for
capital work.
this, we'll just say no trades.
Yeah, we'll do no
Just so you
trades
get
because
the
I'm
easy on
saying this is
people.
prime JJ McCarthy territory, like right here. Obviously, Chargers are not taking JJ McCarthy, but in Big Tongue Mock 1.0, I do have Minnesota moving up to 5 to take McCarthy at the spot. But we'll do no trades for this exercise. We'll stick and pick. And I'm going to go Joe Alt, tackle out of Notre Dame. He's as clean as a prospect as there is in this draft. He stands at 6'8", former tight end, great feet. I believe he allowed 1 or 2 sacks over the last 2 seasons at Notre Dame. So just prototypical starting left tackle in the league. And also, I know it's big scout the player, not the helmet type of thing, but Notre Dame offensive linemen usually pan out in the NFL the way they're coached up there. So I think Joe Alt is a great fit for the Chargers, and Jim Harbaugh will be pumped to pair Alt, who can play right tackle, pair Alt with Rashawn Slater and protect franchise quarterback Justin Herbert. That's a good way to start his tenure as the Chargers head coach.
All right. So I got the Giants. There's a couple different directions I can go here,
Are you
but
going, JJ?
I'm thinking JJ, but I don't know. For this exercise, I'll even though he didn't go here, I just don't think he'll be there at 5. So I'm gonna shock the world. I'm going Brock Bowers here.
Whoa!
Yeah, yeah. As crazy as that is, I don't think honestly, it comes down to what prospect they like best because it sounds like Darren Waller might be done. I know he hasn't officially retired, I know, but it sounds like his future there is very uncertain, and he is not a long-term answer there. We've seen the Giants, same ownership, draft Evan Ingram with a high capital first-round pick. Anytime you take a tight end in the first round, that's a high capital pick, whether it's late or early. That's still a big pick. So I think it comes down to what weapon do you like the best? Because right now, if you draft a quarterback, they're not going to have any success in this offense. There's not a lot. It's lacking star power. There's not one weapon you can point to on this offense outside of Wandell Robinson. And even with him, it's like, is he a true number 1? No. Is he a true number 2? hopefully, but that's not. I mean, he might be a 3 at the end of his career. So I think here it's going with the best weapon, and I really do think Brock Bowers is the best weapon out of the 3. I think he has the longer sample size out of the 3 of being dominant. I mean, it wasn't just like Dunze and Neighbors came onto the scene a lot last year. Prior to that, they weren't putting up the numbers they put up. Where Bowers, he was putting up numbers throughout his whole entire career. This guy they've been hyping up for years now that he was going to be a stud. So I think they shock the world and they just go best weapon out of the 3 because you can't go wrong with any of them here. And they finally get Daniel Jones, who will stay their quarterback for next year, or at least for part of the year, a weapon he needs.
Wow,
I'll let you give your
Reagan.
thoughts because obviously you're a Giants fan. So for this one, I'll hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I don't hate it. Darren Waller has been contemplating retirement for the entire offseason and still has not let the team know, which I mean, I respect. It's your career, so I respect you want to take the proper time to make sure you make the correct decision, but you should at least give the franchise some time to decide whether or not they need another tight end because next on the depth chart is Daniel Bellinger is a fourth round pick last year. Was pretty good as a rookie, but obviously took a backseat to Waller last year. But his ceiling just really isn't up there. I don't think he'll ever be a tight end one as a receiver. So Bowers definitely makes sense if Darren Waller decides not to play next year, which he needs to let the team know soon. Also, you talked about the weapons. Like, yeah, if this isn't a quarterback, it has to be an offensive weapon. Obviously, losing Barkley. Now Darius Slayton is holding out because he wants an extension, which if the Giants take a weapon at 6, Slayton will lose leverage. However, if they take a quarterback, Slayton gains leverage because they need him even more. I think Bowers is a bold pick. And if you're taking a tight end or even just not even a tight end, a non-premium position in the top 10, so running back, tight end, inside linebacker, interior offensive line, or a safety, they have to be an absolute unicorn and blue chip prospect. I mean, we saw Kyle Hamilton last year. A lot of people had him going top 10. He is one of those type of players, but ultimately he fell to 14th. But Bowers certainly fits the bill to be a top 10 pick, given how well he's performed. I mean, he started as a true freshman at Georgia, and that team was winning national championships. So I think it's a good pick, Reagan. I like it. I'm surprised you went there. So you probably were hoping he was going to fall to your Jets at 10, but it's a good changeup, dude. I like it.
Yeah, and my whole reasoning behind it is where the Giants are at, you can't go wrong with any of these options. They just need a weapon. They need a
Yeah.
weapon. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. And with how good Bowers is, and if Waller does stay, you can run some 2 tight end sets. Both guys can play out of the slot. So there's like we see what Buffalo was doing with Knox and Kincaid. You know, like we saw what the Patriots did with Hernandez and Gronkowski. There's a world where you can play multiple tight ends at once. And a guy like that, like you can play him in the slot a ton, like I said. So I don't know. I'm just going with the guy with the highest sample size and the guy we've been hearing about for years. Like you said, started as a true freshman. So versus the guys that I'm not saying what Adunze and Neighbors did last year isn't impressive because it is. But I'm going to go with the guy who has the higher sample size and or the bigger sample size, not the higher sample size. So yeah, definitely shakes up the board though.
That's fair. It definitely shakes up the board, makes this mock draft quite interesting, Reagan. Number 7 for the Tennessee Titans. I'm going to go Olu Fashanu, tackle out of Penn State. I really wanted to go Malik Neighbors here, but they still have DeAndre Hopkins for 1 year. They signed Calvin Ridley, and they're still probably holding out hope that Traylon Burks will develop into a starting caliber wide receiver. They just really need help along that offensive line. They took Skronsky last year, 11th overall. He was pretty good as a rookie, but there's just a lot of holes in his offensive line. Fashanu is an absolute beast in pass pro. Um, I mean, I think he let up 1 sack last season. He's a freak athlete. He still hasn't even reached the ceiling. He probably has the highest ceiling of any offensive tackle in this class, and that's really saying something because this is a really, really deep offensive line class and one of the best in recent memory. I just think this is a really good pick for Tennessee because Will Levis will never reach his ceiling if he doesn't have more time. And although I'm not a Will Levis believer, you got to at least give the kid a shot. And this is the best way to do that at number 7.
All right, so I got Atlanta here. I think if they're in this spot with the board like this, I think there's a chance they trade back, but we're not doing trades. So I think the rich just get richer on offense here. I think they're in a good spot right now where they just go best player available. Like, yeah, you can go corner here, you can go D live, but I'm just going Malik Neighbors. I think they're thrilled for him to fall in the lap. I think they pair him with Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan, and they just get Kirk Cousins the best weapons he's ever had. Which, don't get me wrong, yeah, Justin Jefferson, that's the best weapon he's had, but this is the like overall core. I mean, throwing the ball to three former first round picks, and you have Bijan Robinson, also first round pick, but he's running back, so that's why I phrased it like that. I think this is a no brainer for them, and they just go best player available, a team that I expect to probably be in the playoffs with the Kirk Cousins ads, and I think most people will. I'd say they're definitely the odds on favorite. I haven't looked at the line, but I would definitely assume they're the division odds on favorite to win. So I just think they stack up this offense more, and I think they address corner and D line in the second and third round.
Wow, Reagan. I fucking love it. I absolutely love it. So in my mock, I went Quinyon Mitchell, corner out of Toledo. A lot of people, the consensus seems to be they'll take a pass rusher. They need pass rushing help for a while now. But I mean, if you can have an offense of Kirk Cousins, they have a probably a definitely a top 12 offensive line in football, I'd say. You got Cousins, you got Bijan and Algier in the backfield, and then out wide you have Drake London, you have Malik Neighbors, you have Kyle Pitts, you have Darnell Mooney who you signed, and then you also traded a late round pick for Rondell Moore as kind of that gadget player. That's a really fun offense, man. And they could hang. I think they'd average at least 30 points per game next season. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, and my whole thought is there. Yeah, wide receiver and honestly, skill position is not a need, but in that spot where they're at and having Kirk Cousins, you just go best player available and you set yourself up well for the future. And then it also gives you some flexibility where if you're not fully sold on Drake London, I know he's only going into year 3, but at least it's like if you're not sold
Oh,
or on
London's
Kyle
good, man.
Pitts,
He's
no, I
good.
know, but I'm just saying with all those weapons, it gives you a lot more flexibility when you got to pay all these guys where it's like, you know what? We're going to let Drake London walk. We got Malik Neighbors. Or, you know what? We're going to let Kyle Pitts walk. We're not fully sold on it. We're fine building around the two stud wide receivers. So I think it gives them more long term flexibility as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, here I am back on the board with the Chicago Bears at 9, and I took Romo Dunze in my mock draft, and I'm really tempted to go there now. But part of me just thinks they're going to go tackle to pair with Darnell Wright and just really protect Caleb Williams because they have DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. Do you know what? It's just too good, man. Just give me Romo Dunze. I mean, the best player on the board. I mean, the firepower in that offense for rookie quarterback is now absurd. I absolutely love it. I think that could be the best wide receiver trio in all of football next year with Odunze. And then that gives you flexibility, as you mentioned, Reagan. Obviously, Keenan Allen's going to be 32 next year. He has a hefty contract. You don't necessarily feel the need to extend him or keep him around longer as his production starts to decline. Odunze can step into that role. And now you have DJ Moore, Romo Dunze, and Keenan Allen that are all big wide receivers, great route runners. I mean, that would just be really fun for Chicago if they had Odunze in there.
Yeah. No, I mean that's a no brainer there. Makes it interesting for me with the Jets. What happened to the thing, Dave?
Dave, where's our screen? Where's our draft board?
But yeah, it makes it a lot more interesting for the Jets now. Part of me as a Jet fan wants to go JJ McCarthy here and just be like, let him learn behind Rodgers and build towards the future. I don't think they do that after we saw the reaction he kind of had with the Jordan Love pick and also the fact that we're winning out. But there's not a lot of holes on this team right now. So, and also I don't think McCarthy will be there. And there's no way
McCarthy
we're
won't
right.
be here. He won't
No,
be here.
no. But like in this mock draft, I'd love to go him and just be like, you know what, let him sit behind the team. Like that's a potential stud you're getting at quarterback. And because think about it, they did that with Mahomes. He went 10th, sat behind Smith. But
Yeah, but Rodgers was so fucking pissed that the Packers
I
were
know
doing it.
that's
There's
what I'm
no way
saying.
their golden boy. They're gonna let. They're
Yeah.
gonna have their golden boy get pissed off again.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with the guy I've seen being linked to the Jets the most. I'm gonna butcher his name, the Oregon State tackle, Talise uh
Talise Fuaga.
Fuaga. Yes, I knew I was
That's
gonna
a
butcher
good
the name.
pick, man. That's a really good
Just
pick.
because you know what, we did address the tackle position, both sides, but both guys are older. They're both coming off great seasons. Obviously, Tyron Smith, stud, but he has injury issues. I can't tell you the last season he played a full season. So it's nice that you can draft a guy, let him learn, not rush him in right away, let him develop because you rarely hear about offensive linemen being able to sit behind and develop. So and it gives us depth at a position or at a position at an offensive line front that we did not have last year and was the death of our team. That and obviously Rodgers going down, but I don't think it would have mattered because if we couldn't block for Zach Wilson, who was more mobile than Rodgers, well, I mean, it would have been the same thing. So I think we just keep building in the trenches. And also, you got to look at the fact that Tyron Smith's on a 1 year deal. I'm not sure Morgan Moses' contract, but I don't believe it's a long term thing. So at least it gives us a guy to plug in for the future as well. So it builds us towards the future. And if there's a scenario where he needs to play. And maybe they even slot him in at guard and they're like, look, you're a first round talent. You're going to learn how to play guard as well. So, first injury on a guy, we're sliding you in at guard or tackle and you're stepping up and filling in. So, just gives them a lot more flexibility.
Yeah, he can certainly play guard. He's 6'5", 324 pounds, and is an absolute mauler in the run game. So I'd be pumped for Brees Hall if they made
Yeah.
that pick as well. I mean, this
Hmm.
one's easy enough for me. JJ McCarthy to 11 to the Vikings. I think they move up and try to get him, but I could stick and pick JJ McCarthy here. That's a home run for Minnesota. They got that second first round pick as ammo to move up, most likely, but I know their GM did say they still need to build a team around that quarterback that they take, but I mean, I mentioned it in my mock draft. They have two stud offensive tackles in Darisaw and O'Neal. They have Justin Jefferson. They have Jordan Addison. They have TJ Hawkinson. They have Aaron Jones. This is a great spot for a rookie quarterback to produce. I mean, and they have Sam Darnold in place right now. So if McCarthy isn't ready week one, fine. Wait a few weeks. Wait until he's ready. They don't need to rush him. McCarthy, a lot of people are like, oh, well, he didn't really throw the ball that much. You know, Michigan didn't need him to win. McCarthy is a gamer. He's a winner. He has all the intangibles. He's athletic. He was huge on third downs, the best quarterback in the country on third downs, which does translate to the NFL. That's huge. So, although he wasn't asked to sling the ball around the yard, he played in the most pro style offense of any of these quarterbacks. So, I actually think McCarthy's going to be a good player in the league. I don't know how high his ceiling is, but I think he's going to be good. And I think that's a home run pick for the Vikings.
Yeah, it's interesting, Colin. So I'll start with now I got the Broncos at 12. There's a lot of ways you can go here because this team desperately needs just about everything.
Yep.
So, I mean, I think there's a chance they actually trade up in the draft. I don't think if they stick here, they take a quarterback because you'd be reaching by taking Nix or Penix here. So, I would say they go corner, but I think with Pat Surtain, it's not the biggest need. I think they go edge rusher. This is a team we've seen draft multiple edge rushers early, and they've always kind of had that one guy, Von Miller, Bradley Chubb. Those come to mind. So I think they go with a consensus number one edge rusher here, Dallas Turner from Alabama.
Good pick.
Uh, yeah, I think it's just a key need for them, and a team like this is going to need to get pressure on the quarterback if they want to have a chance to stay in these games. You could have made a case for Mitchell out of Toledo or DeJean out of Iowa, those two corners. But I think with the fact that they still have Pat Surtain, who's top three corner in the league, you can even debate he's number one. I think they go elsewhere because right now edge is a huge need for this team. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Dallas Turner there.
Great pick, Reagan. I had Dallas Turner in my mock going to the Broncos. We mentioned the quarterbacks. A lot of mock drafts have them going. I see some Bo Nix there. I think that's really early for Bo Nix. Don't get me wrong. He's a 5-year starter. He has leadership traits. He's athletic. He can run. He did have the highest completion percentage in college football last season. I believe it was like 78%. But he threw a ton of passes at or behind the line of scrimmage in an offense that isn't translatable to the NFL. So that kind of concerns me. Also, I don't think he has necessarily the arm strength. So it would be a reach for Nix. Penix just has the medical red flags and he struggles under pressure in money pockets. So I don't know. I agree with Dallas Turner. He stepped in really well for Will Anderson this year and started opposite Will Anderson the year before. Freak athlete. I also have him as my number one edge. So I think that's a good pick.
Thank you.
Now I'm up with the Raiders at 13. This team also has a lot of holes, also in the quarterback market, but I am not taking a quarterback here. They are pretty set at defensive line with Max Crosby. Obviously, they signed Christian Wilkins to a massive deal for the interior, which was a huge need for this team, and they still have Tyree Wilson. They took 7th last year. I'm going to go Quinyon Mitchell, corner out of Toledo here. It seems like the Raiders have swung and missed on corners early in the draft for years now. They just can't seem to get the position right. They've been struggling in the secondary for a while. Mitchell, yes, from a small school, Toledo, but he dominated at Toledo and really opened up the eyes of a lot of evaluators at the Senior Bowl when he competed against those Power 5 wide receivers and locked them down all week, winning Defensive Player of the Week at the Senior Bowl. So I think Mitchell will be a great pick for the Raiders at 13.
Yeah, no, I mean they obviously corners a huge need for that team. I mean there's another team they have a lot of holes, but I think between him and DeJean, those are the kind of the consensus too. See a lot of people leaning more towards Mitchell, so I think that's a great pick and will be a big impact for them. So with the Saints here, I find it interesting that they're saying their biggest need is quarterback. I don't really know if you can go quarterback here with the
They
amount you just
can't.
gave Derek Carr, and also
Can't.
he showed enough to me that you want to give him one more year, and so I don't know. I think I'm gonna go D line here. I think I'm gonna go edge rusher to be exact. I'm gonna go with Jared Verse here from Florida State. I think you can make a case that he's the best edge rusher in this draft. He had a pretty good year. I've seen people debating him and Turner. Those have kind of been the top two edge guys, but I think in this league where it's key to get after the quarterback, you can never go wrong with taking an edge rusher. So I think they go Jared Verse here.
That's a solid pick. I think the Saints have to address the trenches, whether that's offensive line or defensive line. I took O line in my mock because Trevor Penning has been brutal since they took him in 2021. They obviously still have Ramchick, but he's getting up there in age. So I think offensive tackle is probably their biggest need, but can never go wrong with taking an edge rusher. Their defensive line is getting pretty old. So I think that's a good pick for the Saints. Colts at
Thank you.
15. Woo, man. Do I do what I did in my mock? I really want to. I really want to just so I can talk about it. But I could totally see him going. I'm torn between Byron Murphy, defensive tackle out of Texas, and Xavier Worthy, receiver out of Texas. I'm going to ultimately go Xavier Worthy, like I did in Big Tongue Mock 1.0. There are rumors out there. I mean, they had Worthy in for a visit. There's rumors they want more speed, and Worthy would be a phenomenal complement to Michael Pittman's skill set and Josh Downs in the slot. Now, that's a really fun wide receiver trio for your young quarterback. Anthony Richardson has an absolute cannon of an arm. He can push the ball downfield, like probably like on almost Josh Allen's level. I'd say that. That's how strong his arm is. And if you have a guy with Worthy speed, 4.21 combine record in that offense with Jonathan Taylor in the backfield and solid offensive line, man, that's how you help your young quarterback reach that next level. I think Worthy would be a great pick for Texas. I mean, for Indianapolis. I also think that Worthy's a very underrated route runner. He's not just like a straight burner. He's not getting picked here solely because of the 40 time. It certainly helps him move up the board a little bit, but he's a very good receiver and played some big time ball at Texas.
All right. That makes my decision easy. I think the biggest need on this team for the Seattle Seahawks at 16, you need to get edge. I mean, Leonard Williams did not pan out for this team. They made the big addition. That was supposed to be how they could shore it up in the trenches and get after the quarterback.
They gave him
It
a
didn't
bag
work out.
too.
They gave him the bag because you almost had to. But I think they go Latu or Latu
Good
at
pick.
UCLA. I know he's an older prospect, but you know what? I'm still taking him here. I don't care. I don't look at guys and be like, look, he's 23. He's a senior, ton of experience, massive human. I mean, 6'5", 265. He's one of the highest ranked guys on the PFF big board. But I think he's got that rare blend where he's a great edge rusher, but he also is good against the run. So yeah, I just think it's a big need for this team, and I don't think there's a guard or a center, which obviously are big needs for Seattle, that you can warrant taking at that pick. So I think they go edge and address a huge need for that team.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I had
And
edge rusher
also,
for them
and
as well
also,
in my mock. That's a big need for them. It feels like they've
mhm.
been lacking pass rushers for several years now.
Yeah, I agree. So
They were 10th in the league in sacks last year, though. I really got to look into it more and how they facilitated that because they don't have many studs along that defensive line. They've swung and missed. They took LJ Collier out of TCU a couple years ago, big whiff. I think Latu is a good pick. He's probably the most polished pass rusher in the draft right now. He did medically retire for a year, so that's something to be slightly concerned about. He'll be 24 by the time the season starts, but you can't deny his production. I believe he had 12 and a half sacks last year. Just a really good pass rusher, and I think be a good fit in Seattle. All right, I'm up. Jacksonville at 17. I mean, corner is just such a need, man. Such a need. I think I have to go corner here. I went
mm,
Terrion Arnold in my big tong mock, but I'm going to switch it up here and I'm going to go Nate Wiggins, corner out of Clemson. Wiggins is a burner as well, ran a 4.29 at the combine, and that speed shows up on tape. He had 3 picks at Clemson in his career, and he returned 2 of them for touchdowns, and they were never going to catch him. He does have slight injury concerns, but great frame. He's 6'1", long arms, and has that elite long speed to keep up with receivers. And with all those teams in the AFC South gearing up at receiver, I think Jacksonville has to go corner to replace Darius Williams to play opposite of who is the other corner, Reagan, for Jacksonville? They just took him like 2 years ago.
oh, Henderson.
No, no, no.
Not
ah,
CJ Henderson? Are you
no, it's
sure?
not Henderson. Yeah, it's not
I mean,
Henderson.
I know Cisco's the safety. The one
No.
that they had a ton of picks that they let walk. Hold on. I'll pull it up.
Oh my God, dude, it's gonna bother the hell out of me. He's out of the
Oh,
SEC. He's out of Georgia, I believe.
Williams, right? Williams. Oh
No.
wait. I'll find it in a second. Not oh Campbell. No. Oh, are
Yeah,
you
Tyson
not?
Campbell. Tyson Campbell.
Yeah.
Yes, Tyson Campbell. Yes, and Campbell's been really good for them. With all those teams gearing up in the AFC South, that receiver, I think they have to go corner here to keep up, and I think Wiggins would be a good pick there.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I'm on the clock with the Bengals.
Interesting spot
Obviously,
here. Then go a couple different
yeah.
ways.
Yeah, I think it's easier with obviously the Bengals had a huge loss on the defensive line.
DJ Reader, yeah.
Um DJ Reader. Thank
I
you.
see Byron Murphy get mocked there a lot.
That's all right. I guess you're making the pick for me. That's who I was going to say, Byron Murphy, because I think that's such a big hole, and DJ Reader was such a big key piece on the defensive line for years. So I got Byron Murphy there. I just think it's a big hole for them right now, and obviously tight end's one of their top needs. You're not taking a tight end there. Tackle, I'm not in love with any of the tackles at that spot, and I just think defensively, like when you lose a key piece like that, you need to address. So I think he'll pair nice with Trey Hendrickson.
That's a really good pick, Reagan. Obviously they need to fill that void. DJ Reader, he's a stud. They still have BJ Hill, who's a solid player, but Murphy was a stud at Texas. Him and Tavarian Sweat, the other defensive tackle from Texas. Sweat won Defensive Player of the Year in the Big 12, while Murphy won Defensive Lineman of the Year in the Big 12. And they both played in the interior at Texas. So that shows you why they made the college football playoff. But yeah, Murphy's a really good pick. He's got some pass rushing juice in the interior, which is so valuable in today's NFL. I'm up with the Rams at 19. Now, in my mock, I had them going Latu. He's gone now. And also Peter Schrager, who I respect a lot and is one of the most accurate mock drafters out there, only drops 2 per year. He's very plugged in with teams. He said this is the Rams' first round pick since 2016, the first in the Sean McVay era. He says, I'm going to make somewhat of a guarantee here that they go offense. So with
Hmm.
JC Latham still on the board, offensive tackle from Alabama, that'd be a huge pick for the Rams. They've poured a lot of resources in that offensive line during the offseason. And I mean, they did a hell of a job developing uh, players that they drafted later on in the draft last year. They're very inexperienced offensive line, and they played really well. I think there's still a hole at right tackle that needs to be addressed. So I think Latham can step right in and be a stud. Some guys have him as the number one offensive tackle in this draft, which, is interesting. Now, one thing I want to bring up about tackles from Alabama and Matt Miller, another guy I respect for ESPN, his whole thing is scout the player, not the helmet. And he's like, I understand that, but look at the history of all of Alabama offensive tackles picked in the first round. They're just all whiffs, basically. Like even recent memory, like Cam Robinson, he's been good, but never lived up to his draft status. Evan Neal, Leatherwood that the Raiders took. Like there's a list of guys that Alabama offensive tackles just really haven't panned out. So I think that's an interesting trend. We'll see if Latham can break it.
Yeah. No, I mean that's obviously a huge need for them. So I got the Steelers now at 20. I'm just laughing at this, bro. Like their top need quarterback. Now
Yeah, that's
it's
just not
not. I feel like they have to go wide receiver here,
wide receivers
honestly.
huge. I think they
Because
have to go offense.
They let Deontay go. I mean, you still have George Pickens, but and I think with their pedigree of drafting it, they're gonna get a smash guy here. I think I'm gonna go with Brian Thomas Jr.
Good pick.
Like he was just solid at LSU. I mean, obviously he got outshined
Neighbors.
by yeah, thanks. There's so many freaking names, but obviously he got outshined by Neighbors, who was the stud there. If it wasn't for Marvin Harrison, he'd probably be the first wide receiver taken.
He
But you
still
know what?
could
With
be.
his size, and it's gonna be scary if you freaking pair up Brian Thomas Jr. at 6'4" with George Pickens, who I believe is 6'4", 6'5" as well. They got some crazy size. I think they'll be a nice pair together. Um, yeah, so I'm going with Brian Thomas there. I just think it's a huge need. I don't think you could go wrong with taking a different wide receiver there. I mean, there's obviously this is a very deep class, but I think it's a huge need for Pittsburgh since they let Deontay go. And I don't believe Allen Robinson is back, and even if he is, it doesn't matter to me
Washed.
at all. So I just think you want to get a number two guy there and give either Russell Wilson or Justin Fields another weapon.
Yeah, I absolutely love that pick, Reagan. A couple things here. Yeah, huge hole at receiver for the Steelers. They're not going to succeed without more playmakers. So Brian Thomas makes a lot of sense. Ran a 4.35 40, led the country with 17 touchdowns last year from Jaden Daniels at quarterback. He did have less yards than Neighbors, but Thomas was a stud. He's built like AJ Brown. I mean, this is a great pick. Him and Pickens, freak athletes, but in different ways. Pickens is more that vertical threat, will get up and get the ball and make one-handed catches, where Thomas is more, he's faster, basically. So I think it's a really good pick. I think they have to go offense here, and I think the way this draft is shaped up to be, the deepest position groups are receiver and tackle, and those would be the most pick position groups in the first round. And I have those two as my biggest needs for the Steelers. So they should get a really good player at number 20 that should help them out. Brian Thomas is certainly a good choice. Miami Dolphins at 21. Man.
This is interesting.
I mean,
There's a lot of places you could go here.
I know
This-
if you didn't take Byron Murphy, I actually really love this spot to replace Christian Wilkins here.
I think,
Uh,
yeah, I think that's where you got to go is the replacement for Christian Wilkins.
yeah, but Terrion Arnold is just staring at me. He's 12th on Pro Football Network's draft board, and he's a consensus top 3 corner in the draft. And they did just let Xavier Howard go, so I'm going to go that route. I'm going to go Terrion Arnold, corner out of Alabama. I think it's just a huge need. You know, they need someone to play opposite Jalen Ramsey. They they did lose a lot of guys along the offensive line and defensive line, so can't go wrong with going to the trenches. But Miami just seems to prioritize the skill position players more so than the trenches, which is an interesting team building mindset. But yeah, I think Arnold will be a good pick here to pair with Jalen Ramsey, learn under him for a bit. They definitely need more help in the secondary.
All right, Philadelphia. This is another interesting one. Obviously, they addressed a lot of things in the offseason. They went and got Bryce Huff. They let Reddick go or traded him. They paid Saquon. I
They
find it
lost
interesting that
Kelsey.
they're. I find it. Yeah, obviously they lost Kelsey, but they went out and paid Mulata and Dickerson, so they shored up the line in that sense. I find it very interesting that their top need would be a wide receiver when they just paid Devontae Smith and AJ Brown still under contract. I think
Yeah,
that would be a
that's just
mega
not
reach
true.
here.
Yeah.
I think it's got to be defense after the huge collapse they had last year. I don't know. Like, obviously, linebacker was probably their biggest hole, but I don't think you can take a linebacker at 22. I really don't. I think
No.
you go DB here. Um, I think you go Cooper DeJean here. I really do.
Yep.
I mean, the
Yep.
guy's a stud. Obviously, I believe he had multiple return touchdowns. I mean, he was the big reason why Iowa was even able to put up points because it sure as hell wasn't because of their offense. I mean, he may have put up more points than most of their skilled players on offense. But I think that's a big playmaker there. I think they can also use him as a returner too, if they choose to. That's obviously interesting. But I just think he's so skilled. It'll be interesting seeing a white corner in the league.
Should be fun. You know, and
Like,
Dejeen can play multiple positions in the secondary, which is very valuable in today's NFL. But like you mentioned, Reagan, that defense collapse. You can't really bank on Slay or
no.
Bradbury bouncing back next year, given that they're going to be, what, 31, 32,
Yeah.
and they kind of fell off a cliff a little bit last year. Yeah, you brought back Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, which was a good sign for them as well to play safety, but DeJean can play in the slot. He can play outside. He can play safety. Really good testing numbers at his pro day last week. He's also recovering from a broken leg. So for him to run a 4.45 was pretty big for him. I think DeJean's a lock to go round one, and that's a really good landing spot in Philadelphia. They need the help there.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, he can play multiple positions. He's kind of one of those chess pieces, and I just think Philly just lacks so much talent there. And you also got to look towards the future there. Like you said, with those corners getting up there in age, I mean, you would have to imagine they're both not the long term answer. Well, obviously, neither of them are the long term answer, but they got to address it because otherwise, if they lose them, if they both continue to go downhill like they have been, it's going to be a big issue for Philadelphia because their secondary got cooked against the Bucks, and they were getting cooked by no names. I mean, it wasn't like Mike Evans was doing all it wasn't like it was all Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. I'm blanking out. Who was the wide receiver that
Trey Palmer.
actually? Yeah, Trey Palmer.
Was it Palmer?
No, no. I'll hold on. I almost have it up. Well, I
But yeah,
know.
talk. Go ahead, Reagan.
They got cooked. Yeah, I mean they were getting cooked by David Moore. I mean Trey Palmer did have a big touchdown also. I mean Mike Evans had 3 for 48. Chris Godwin was 4 for 45. But I mean they let up a big touchdown to Trey Palmer and the David Moore, and Kate Otten obviously cooked them as well. But that's because their linebacking core's trash. But they have big needs there. If you're getting cooked by teams as 3 and 4 wide receiver, it's not good. Not good.
Not good. And Reagan, last year they did take Keely Ringo, corner out of Georgia in the beginning of the fourth round, and it was just like, oh, they go back to the well. Another Georgia defender, the best defense in college football. Ringo at one time was considered a first round prospect due to his athleticism, but he kind of got torched in man coverage his final year at Georgia, which is why he fell. Didn't really make an impact as a rookie. They also signed Eli Ricks as an undrafted free agent corner out of Alabama last year. He at one time was also considered a first round talent, a blue chip recruit out of high school, never lived up to it. He saw a decent amount of time last year, but yeah, they need more bodies in the secondary, and the more dart throws they have, the better. I'm back on the clock. The Minnesota Vikings at 23. I highly doubt that they make this pick here at 23, but we're here. We're going to make it. I'm going to go Chop Robinson, edge rusher out of Penn State. One of those stereotypical Penn State defensive players, just a freak athlete, never really had the production you'd expect from him, given his, what caliber of recruit he was out of high school and the athletic traits. But I mean, everything's there. He ran in the 4.4s as an outside linebacker, which is Micah Parsons territory, that type of athlete. So this pick for the Vikings, they lost Daniil Hunter. They did get Jonathan Grenard, but they've needed pass rush help for a little bit now. They need more bodies. I think Chop Robinson would add some juice to the edge, and he'd be a fun guy to kind of mold to become a really good edge rusher in this league.
All right, so now I'm up to Dallas. One of their biggest needs right now is offensive line. Obviously, you lose Tyron Smith, so I'm going to go with a guy that's very versatile. He's a little undersized for tackle, even though he's listed as a tackle. Troy Fadianu, the Washington tackle. But you know what? He's very, very, very versatile. I mean, you could. I know long term they're talking about him more being a guard and a center, but I think that's smart because obviously, Zach Martin's locked down there, but how many more years does he have left? Obviously, he's got the big contract extension, but I think it's good to try to get a guy that you can kind of bounce around the line and can plug and play in different spots. So I think because of his versatility and the need, I think he'll get slotted in at one of the tackle spots, but I think it's nice that you could also use him at guard or even potentially center. So I think they just go here, a guy who gives them a lot more flexibility and a big need. Because obviously you could running back's a big need. You're not taking a running back there. Like I don't think they go wide receiver there. You could go defense, but I just think they really need to go and address an offensive lineman here. And it's something that we've seen Dallas address a lot, clearly, because look at how good their offensive line was for years. And what was the draft pedigree for all those guys? First round picks. So I think they're going to try to get back to that way.
That's really smart, Reagan. I 100% agree with your thought process there. They are probably going to go running back in round 2. I think they want their pick, and I don't think they're going to want to wait till round 3 to get like the 5th running back in a running back class that's just not that good. Tyler Smith's been really good for them. A lot of people gave him shit for taking him out of Tulsa, kind of in the same range a couple years ago, but he's been a Pro Bowl caliber player. He does have flexibility to play tackle, but when you get Troy in there as well, you figure it out, man. Which one of you is going to play tackle? Which one is going to play guard? You build your best 5. I think that's a really smart pick. And it actually leads right into who I'm about to take for the Green Bay Packers, Graham Barton out of Duke. He started as a true freshman at Duke at center at 17 years old and has since played all along the offensive line, even kicking out the tackle. He stands at 6'5", 313. He does not have great arm length, so maybe he projects better on the interior. But for Green Bay, they have a guy like Elgin Jenkins that could play guard or tackle as well. Obviously, Bakhtiari is gone. He wasn't really healthy, but you got Jordan Love. You're gonna end up extending him based on how he looked last year. You have the 30th highest paid wide receiver room in the league, given your ability to draft them later on in the draft and develop them. So I think they got to protect their investment in Jordan Love. Barton makes a lot of sense here. You can kick him out to tackle, or you can play on the interior, really shore up that offensive line. And I think that defense, I was tempted to go secondary, but I mean, I don't want to go Kool-Aid McKinstry here, and there's really no other player in the secondary worthy of this pick. They did bring in Xavier McKinney at safety, but they do need help there. But I expect the defense to bounce back next season under new defensive coordinator. Just too much talent, too much draft capital invested in that defense for it to not bounce back. So I think you shore up the offensive line in front of Jordan Love, and hopefully he progresses after a really good first season as a starter.
Drock's fat finger clicked the wrong guy. God damn it.
Oh, you clicked our various memes.
Can you? Is there any way you can change it or no? Because even if I try to go to settings, it's gonna like kick me out of the draft.
Yeah, you can't change it. It's fine. We got Graham Barton for the Packers. Just no Mims is on the board, Reagan, if you want to take him.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Sounds good. I'm not taking him here. I got for me the Bucks. Another team. They got a lot of holes, but I'm gonna go with a guy in Jackson Powers Johnson. He's a center, but you can also play him at guard. He's a younger guy. He's only 21 coming in, but you know what? 6'3", 320. I love the size. He's very versatile, and I think the interior of this line is their biggest issues. Obviously, their center right now, Robert Hainsey. If you're really satisfied with him, you still need a left guard. They went out and got Sua Opeta, a backup for the Eagles. So you obviously got Cody Mock at the other guard and Tristan Wirfs, and you took Luke Gadecki back in the second round, or I'm sorry, back in the fourth round, or no, second round, like I said. So I think that gives you flexibility where you could either move him to center or guard. So I think it's a huge need here, and I think they go out and get the best center in the draft. Obviously, in recent years, we haven't seen a ton of centers go in the first round. Last year, both of them fell to the second round. And then the year before that, I'm blanking out on his name, but he's the Ravens center. I'm totally blanking out on his name right now. You know who I'm talking about?
Out of Iowa.
The Ravens
center, Linderbaum.
Yeah, Linderbaum. There we go. Thank you. Yeah, so obviously Tyler Linderbaum was the last center to be taken in the first round, but I think it's just a good pick for them because he's versatile and you can either plug him in at guard or center, something that both need to be addressed for this team. So I think they go with him there.
Okay, I like it. For the Cardinals at 27, I'm going to go Newton, defensive tackle out of Illinois. This is probably the worst defensive front in football. They just need bodies there, and they need guys with some high-end talent. Newton, he only stands at 6'1", but he's really explosive. He can really get off the ball. He's versatile. He can play all along the defensive line. I do like that. And a lot of draft guys. I have not really watched Newton, but a lot of draft pundits are really raving about his ability. So I think Newton along the defensive line. I was tempted to go corner, but they got to go to the trenches here, I believe. So Arizona needs to shore up that defensive line. So that's the route I'm going to go.
All right, so the Bills. This one's interesting. A lot of people are saying wide receiver. I'm actually going with Kool-Aid McKinstry here.
Wow.
I think DB and defense is a bigger need. They lost so many freaking guys on the defensive side of the ball, and their secondary is very weak. Obviously, they had to let their safeties go. They still have Taron Johnson, but he's in the nickel. And I'm not sold on Christian Benford or Rasul Douglas, so I think you have to go get a corner there. Otherwise, they're going to get torched in the secondary. Like, obviously, you want to get Josh Allen a weapon, but at the end of the day, it's Josh freaking Allen. Like, I think no matter who he has, he's still going to be able to get it by. Where on the defensive side of the ball, you're going to be struggling a lot. And I think this wide receiver class is deep enough where you can wait and either trade up in the second to go get a guy or hope somebody falls into your lap. So, yeah, I'm going McKinstry here. I know, obviously, early on in the season, he was slotted to be the first cornerback taken. He's starting to fall down the draft board, but I just think it feels like huge, huge need for Buffalo because and honestly, with the wide receivers, like, yeah, I'm not sold on Curtis Samuel or Shakir as number one, but those guys can get by, and that's why you drafted Dalton Kincaid in the first round. It's not like if he can become that number one target, I feel a lot more comfortable in having Dalton Kincaid as my number one wide receiver than taking a shot on one of these wide receivers here. Like I would say he's better than any of the guys I would take here as a weapon for Allen. So I'm gonna go with McKinstry.
Okay, I don't hate it. Bills fans would probably be really pissed off. They're probably
I don't
foaming
know
at the
though.
mouth to get a receiver
Because look
in
at
there.
their defense, though. Like, look, they let so many guys go. I mean,
No, I agree, man. The secondary is bleak right now.
and that's the thing. Like, you go wide receiver, Josh Allen's is going to have to put up like fucking 30 points a game to be in half of these games because their defense is struggling. I mean, I guess they still have they'll be getting Matt Milano back, and their edge is they still have very good pass rush. So they're really going to have to bank on that, and that's the best way to cover up a terrible secondary. But it'll be interesting. Lot of holes here for a team that was very good last year.
Yep. All right, I'm here at 29 for the Lions, and I just hate this draft board right now because it's just like all the best players available at this point are tackles. You got Mims, you got Guyton, or receivers, or quarterbacks. You know what? The rich get richer. I'm gonna go Adonai Mitchell, wide receiver out of Texas here. I would. He has a different skill set from Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams, so I think he'd mesh really well. And that trio could really do some damage. I know they have Josh Reynolds, but he's solid, nothing special. Mitchell is 6'2", 205. Started his career at Georgia. He's I think he's played in 5 or 6 college football playoff games, and he scored a touchdown in every one. Now people will look at his stats and be like, "Oh, he only had 850-ish yards last year at Texas," but he was sharing the wealth with Jonathan Brooks, who was a stud at running back, and Xavier Worthy. You got to look at the player, and Mitchell is a freak athlete. I think this would be a really good fit in that Detroit offense, and I think, I mean, with the weapons that they have in that offensive line, the best offensive line in the league right now, in my opinion, they'd easily score at least 30 a game.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously, he got a little overshadowed by Xavier Worthy and his combine stats, but I mean,
His
I
combine
think
stats were sick too. I think he ran in the 4.3, low 4.4s.
yeah, and
Mitchell.
that's what I'm saying. Like people forget that. Like this guy's still a stud too. It's just when your teammate from Texas breaks the 40-yard dash record, it's easy to forget about you.
Yeah. No,
But
absolutely.
and I
Absolutely.
think to your point, after last year's draft with the Lions, they will go get their guy. They don't care. So maybe this you could consider that a reach. I don't, but I think no matter what, they're going to get a guy here that they want. And I wouldn't even be shocked if it's a guy that most people don't even have on their first round big board. Or I wouldn't be shocked if they trade back. But I
Yeah,
think
you're
it's
right.
a good
Because
pick.
I mean, not a lot of people had Jack Campbell as a first round pick, and they went and got him
Nope.
at 18th overall, and he was really good as a rookie.
Yeah. So I mean it's definitely interesting. All right, so Ravens wide receiver big hole here. Obviously Odell's gone, overrated anyway. You have Bateman, you have
Bateman will
Flowers,
never live up
you
to
have
it. He'll
Andrews, you have
never live up to his
Likely.
draft status
You
ever.
got you got some weapons.
I wouldn't hate receiver here at all.
I don't. I think you
They could
almost
also
have to
go.
go. I think
They
you
can go
have to go O
tackle though.
line.
They could go
Yeah, I
tackle.
think you have to go tackle. You let Morgan Moses go. You lost John Simpson as well, so you just lost two of your starting offensive linemen to the Jets, both of them. So I'm gonna go with Marius Mims here, from Georgia. I mean, this is a guy who's playing against top competition. Obviously, you'd love to see it as SEC. I guess they kind of
Yeah,
fall.
hold on, Reagan. Hold on. Dave is scrolling looking for him, not realizing he already fucking drafted him.
Dave, swap
Yeah,
out the other
I was
guy. That
actually like, wait a second, Mims.
Yeah, you
yeah, no,
just
swap
take
out.
Graham Barton. Take Graham
Yeah,
Barton right now.
Can
that's funny as shit.
I do the
Um,
trade? Can I do a trade? Oh no, you can't right now,
I
right?
no, I don't think
No.
You
so.
can't.
It's all right. So it's funny because it kind of goes back to it's a similar in terms of size and stature to Orlando Brown Jr., a guy they took a much bigger tackle. But you know
Six
what?
foot seven, 340, beast.
Yeah. And exactly, he's a beast. Obviously, when they're that big, you always have injury concerns. I hate to say it, but it does seem like a lot of these guys that come in at that size, they always deal with injuries and stuff, and they haven't exactly translated well. I know it's a it's not the biggest sample size, but I have a bad taste in my mouth with Becton, and I'm sure you have a bad taste in your mouth with your boo is fat ass over there.
Boo is fat
Um,
ass. Boom. Evan
but
knew.
yeah, so but I just think it's a big need for the Ravens, and you want to protect Lamar, and I think with the emergence of Likely and having those two good tight ends, and you're still and Zay Flowers really shining in year one, I think you don't need the weapon where you lost two linemen. You got to go address it. So, because Lamar can't do Lamar things when he has no time. We've seen when he deals with pressure, it's not, like it's one thing to be able to scramble and makes plays, but it's another thing to be doing that all game. You lose the effectiveness when you get tired and you're constantly running backwards. So I'm gonna go Mims here.
I love that pick, Reagan. I think you get a receiver on day 2, and you'll be just fine. Offensive line, I think, is a bigger need. I was going to take Mims at 31 for San Francisco if you didn't take him there. So good pick. He's 6'7", as we mentioned, but Reagan mentioned the injury concerns. He actually was only the starter at Georgia at right tackle for 1 season and only played 8 games. But in those 8 games, he was absolutely dominant. So the talent's there. You just got to hope he stays healthy, and he doesn't have a lot of experience under his belt, but the Ravens have shown they can develop offensive linemen in the past. So I'd have faith in them to get Mims up to speed. That's a great pick. That's a great pick. All right. So for
Thank you.
San Francisco at 31, my last pick in this mock draft, I'm going to go Tyler Guyton, offensive tackle out of Oklahoma. Another guy similar to Mims, where he's also 6'7", he's 322, and he only started 13 games at Oklahoma, but dominant in pass pro, has great length, and I mean, we saw in the Super Bowl, Reagan, the right side of the offensive line by San Francisco was getting exposed. That was like the biggest hole on their team. So although they signed a center and they kicked Feliciano out to right guard, who had a resurgence last year at center for the Niners, there's still a hole at right tackle. I believe their starter right now, I forget his name, but he's a former 5th-round pick from a couple years ago that just has
Oh,
not played good ball.
not you're not talking John Feliciano. You said already, right?
Yeah,
You're not talking
Feliciano,
about
they
him.
kicked him. No, they kicked him to guard. I'm talking about their right tackle, but just not good play. And that offense is way too good to be hindered by a right
Oh,
tackle.
Colton McKivitz.
Yes. Thank
Mhm.
you for getting that. But the offense is too good. They got to shore up the offensive line in front of Brock Purdy so he can do what he does best and go through his progressions and find the open man. So I think this is a really good pick for San Francisco to shore up that O-line.
All right, I get to round it out now. Finish this off for the night. Let us go to bed. So I was looking. The more I think about it, I feel like the Chiefs won't go wide receiver, but I'm going to go wide receiver here because it's the biggest need, especially after the Rashee Rice news. I think there's a lot of options you can go here.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Um,
options. You can go Keon, you can go McConkey, you can go Troy Franklin. I mean,
I
maybe even then like
honestly,
Xavier Legette out of South Carolina, like Jalen Polk. That's who Schrager had, receiver out of Washington. He was their wide receiver
I'm
2
going to go
last
with
year.
I'm going to go with Roman Wilson, a
Roman
guy that
Wilson.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I think Andy Reid is going to go for a guy that's a winner. Has played in some high competition football. Obviously, Ladd has as well, but I think I think you can't go wrong with any of the guys here, but I just think with the Rice news, you need a guy that's played a lot of football, and I'm gonna go with Roman Wilson here. And it'll be interesting. Hopefully, more news is out on Rice before Sunday because it'll make that pick easier on a lot of people. But I also wouldn't hate it with them trading back. I could definitely see a team trading up with them to sneak in and get one of those quarterbacks because
Yeah.
I fully expect, and I know you had in your mock draft, sneak peek if you haven't read it yet, but you had the Raiders trading in the 25 to get Michael Penix. And I fully expect either one team will trade in, if not two teams will trade in to get Bo Nix and Michael Penix because of the 5th-year option, which is huge. Having the 5th-year option on these guys is huge. You don't want to take a guy in the second and only have 4 years because then you have to make that decision. And we've seen it work out so well with teams like the Giants, for example. Like now it's everyone's has a million opinions, but you know what? They had that 5th year with Daniel Jones and it worked out. He got a payday out of it. And if they ended up taking him in the second round, obviously they took him early in the first, but they wouldn't have been able to have him play that 5th year, and they probably would have let him walk after his first 4 years. So
Yep.
it's nice for teams. And look at Jordan Love now. I mean, the Packers were kind of able to not put themselves in a weird spot, and they kind of were like, "Hey, we're going to pick up his 5th-year option, give him a 2-year deal." He showed a ton. They obviously gave him the extension, so I think it's good for teams. And if there's any position you want to have that 5th-year option on, it's the quarterback position. Obviously, with it being the most expensive position, that's a big reason why. So
And how about the Ravens getting Lamar Jackson trading up to number 32 overall when they had Joe Flacco under contract? And look how that worked out. So it can really
of
pay
course.
dividends when you take that gamble and get that 5th-year option on a quarterback. So that would be a good trade spot.
Especially because the guys at that spot are wild cards. There's a reason why you're trading in because they're the wild card. You might want to let them sit, and it's nice to have it. Like Lamar was clearly panned out, but one of the biggest wild cards at the quarterback position coming in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was a lot of fun, man. I love draft season. That was cool. Alternating picks. I just looked at that draft board and I was like, man, I mean, we filled a lot of holes for some teams. We didn't really reach too many times. It looked like the value fit the need in a lot of spots. And I think a lot of fan bases would be happy if we were the ones doing the NFL draft, Reagan.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting. I'm excited for Sunday too, having 8 guys to see how that draft board comes out because it's two minds versus 8 minds is a lot different, and obviously we'll have some trades in that one.
Yeah, trades
I've
are
already
live
had
for
some of
that
the
one.
different guys hit me up trying to
I
do
think
some
Adele's gonna
deals.
have to do some. He's gonna have to go back to freaking fourth grade to read some of these goddamn names.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, little sneak peek for Sunday. Obviously, we'll explain it before the pod starts, but we have 6 guys coming on. It'll be me, Reagan. We got Walmart. We got Max Hayford. We have Austin Newworski. So our guys that continuously submit questions, they get the love and get to hop on for the draft. We got Vindici, Walmart's boy. We have Jacob Batoff, the Shake and Bake King himself.
Hey, shake and bake.
And we have Kenny, who's been on before as well. So basically, we randomize the draft order. Each guy has 4 teams and, well, 4 picks because, some teams have multiple first-round picks. And you can make trades. So basically, I got the second pick. So I have the Commanders at 2. I have the Jets at 10. I have the Bengals at 18. And I have the Packers at 26. So that's how it's going to work, man. Trades are live. We're going to alternate. Roger Goodell over here, Dave, will be announcing the picks. We submit our picks to him. And then while the next guy's on the clock, they will have 2 minutes. The guy who just made his selection will explain why he made that pick for that team. So should be a lot of fun. We haven't done anything like this, but with all these guys in here, it should be good. It should be pretty rowdy.
Yeah, I've picked 5, by the way.
Pick 5. You got the Chargers. That's a big trade spot.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe it'll be live on the pod and be like, boo doo doo. I can't do it. That was bad.
Don't take my limelight here. I got something cooking.
Yeah.
All right.
Somebody got a quarter that I could stick up Drock so we can make some jukebox noises.
It's gonna be a fun one. That's gonna be a fun one. We also have a UFC 300 recap pod dropping on Friday, the debut of Around the Octagon.
Yeah, make sure you guys follow that on Instagram. It's one of our first of many expansion podcasts, so make sure to give it a follow. They should be making other social platforms soon too. I believe you guys are on Twitter. I don't know if anyone's set up the TikTok yet, but hopefully that's set up soon so we can continue to grow that one as well. But UFC fans, go give it a follow. And we have the Golf Scramble, July 20th. We've been promoting that a lot, but if you want to sign up, scan the QR code on the graphic on the Instagram, and it's in our Instagram bio on the main account, the Around the Felt account, or just hit one of us up, or Garrett, Zach, Caleb, some of the other guys that are part of the team. It's going to be a fun day, so make sure you sign up. You don't want to wait too long to sign up and then not be able to play.
Teams are filling up. Teams are filling up quickly, man. Get submitted, build your team, send the money on over to us. It's going to be a phenomenal day. Golf, prizes, good old barbecue, spread. Should be some beer if you want to dabble. Should be a great time for that. All right, Reagan, that closes out our mock draft 1.0. We'll be back later this week.